What's up, nerd family? Welcome once again to the Point Extra Lounge. My name is Enosh, aka Enosh Fett, and it is good to have you with me in the lounge today. Now, if this is your first time to the Point Extra Lounge, just know that the Point Extra Lounge is a place for nerds. It's a place where you and me and my crew can get together and talk about all the things that we love. Things like TV shows, movies, games, sci-fi, fantasy, superheroes, comic books, toys, wrestling, yes, wrestling, and so much more. And if those are things that you love, if those are things that make you tick and get up in the morning, then hey, hit that subscribe button right now. Don't put it off till later, because we all know that we've got those channels that we go to, that we like it, that we watch on a regular basis, but we always forget to subscribe to. Maybe you think you're subscribed. Make sure that you're subscribed, because we want you here. We want you to be a part of this growing community. We are zeroing in on 10,000 subscribers, and we want you to be here at the ground level, right when we got that thing off and going. So hey, look, today we're talking about something. I know this is a little delayed. I kind of wanted to get to it all last week, but a couple of reasons. I mean, one, I had a crazy week last week, but also I wanted to kind of put my thoughts together really about what I felt and what I thought about this, because this is truly the end of an era. And of course, I'm talking about the retirement, the official retirement of the Undertaker from the WWE and from wrestling in general. Some of my thoughts about this, I remember being a kid watching wrestling when wrestling was kind of, it was fun, it was quirky, you had all these comic book like characters. I remember when I thought wrestling was not predetermined. I don't want to say fake, because I respect wrestling. Anybody who doesn't respect wrestling and what, professional wrestling and what people do in those rings, you just don't get it. Because, yes, the outcomes may be pre-planned, but man, people put their bodies on the line. It's definitely, entertainment. There's stories that are crafted, and there's been some amazing stories that have been told within and outside of the ring, in multiple federations and iterations and multiple characters and things like that. And wrestling is an interesting take. I remember when South Park did an episode of about wrestling and about the WWE, and talked about it's like theater. And it truly is. There is a theater aspect to it, where these characters do these amazing things, these superhuman things that we just can't even fathom, and all for our enjoyment. And it sparks something in you. I remember watching matches like Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior in WrestleMania 6, and what that inspired in me and got me super excited. I remember like the first time I was aware of wrestling, I watched wrestling, but the first match that I really remember being invested in as a kid, along with my friends, was SummerSlam 89. And that was, of course, Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake versus Macho Man Randy Savage and Zeus with Scary Sherry. That's the first thing that I remember. That's the first thing besides Hulk Hogan and Iron Sheik, which I was aware of, but I wasn't really invested in it. That was the first match that I was invested in. That was the first match, the movie came out, No Holds Barred, and me and my friends, man, we watched that match. And I remember we would recreate that match. Leading up to that match, we like in school would put out mats during free time at gym class, and we would portray that. And one kid had the WWE belts that they the old foam ones that they had back in the day, and man, everybody wanted to wrestle for those. And so wrestling was a huge part of my young life. The first wrestlers that I had, I didn't really have the big wrestlers. I've got them now, the old big rubber ones. I've got some of those now. But I had the little thumb wrestlers, man. And I had like Hulk Hogan and Iron Sheik and a few other ones. And so I remember the lead up to the first match of The Undertaker at Survivor Series that year. And man, I remember when he came out, he just seemed bigger than life. But it wasn't the first time that I had seen that wrestler, and I knew who he was. And that's the first time that I remember kind of thinking, well, wait a second, these wrestlers are portraying different people. You know, like, you see different characters, because I also watched NWA, and I also watched, I mean, I remember on ESPN, there was like the AWA. And so like there always seemed like the minor leagues, WWE always seemed like the major leagues. NWA seemed like just underneath of it, but there were some amazing wrestlers there with like Sting and Ric Flair and Lex Luger, and the Four Horsemen and those things. And then the AWA, they would show these old matches where you'd see some of these guys come up. So you'd watch the Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty in WWE, but you would also watch them in the AWA, and so it was this interesting thing. But I remember watching Mean Mark Callis and watching him walk the rope and do the heart punch, man. And those were memories. So when I saw him come into the WWF, and yes, I'll say the WWF because that's what it was to me back in the day, whatever the wildlife people want to say, that's what it was. And so he just seemed bigger than life. He seemed to have like attained something bigger than anything that he was as Mean Mark Callis. And so following his career, I remember when he won the title away from was it the Ultimate Warrior? I can't remember what he did, but Hogan. Then I think he may have beat Hogan, and it's been a long time since I've watched that match. But I remember that he won the title, and then he got the title taken away from him right away because Hogan had to always have the title around his waist back then. But watching the Undertaker grow and develop over the years has been a really cool thing as a fan, and I think he's transcended what just the character. Obviously he went to the biker type of character there for a while, and he's gone back. He's been the leader of the arm, the Army of Darkness or whatever that was, and he was just always this character that was a constant in WWE. No matter what else transpired, no matter what else happened, the Undertaker was always there. And I'm glad that, because there was a period of time that I didn't watch wrestling. There was a big part of my life where I didn't watch wrestling. And then when Tiffany and I got married, when we were dating, we introduced the boys to wrestling. Tiffany and I realized that we had watched wrestling growing up. And so I've kind of gone through 3 renaissance periods of wrestling in my life. When I was a kid, when I was in my early 20s, right around the time the NWO took over and the Monday Night Wars, and I was watching that, and I will admit I was definitely pro WCW back then because I was seeing something different. I was seeing Hogan as this villain, as this heel, and the crew. Now that got old after a while, and we all know that. We all know the story of that if you follow wrestling at all. But you'd still watch WWE, man, and The Undertaker was always right there in the mix. He was always fresh. He was always something to be feared. And then as the streak started, the WrestleMania streak obviously started to take form, and it became a thing. And every year it was, hey, what's going to go on with, The Undertaker? Is he going to win at WrestleMania? And just playing into that. And, there's some great memories, and we can all go back. We can watch those matches and see some of those awesome memories of the Undertaker throughout the years. And I encourage you to do that. I know when I had the WWE Network, man, I watched a ton of those, and I've got like the Undertaker box set DVD that I think at the time was like 19-0 that he was at WrestleMania. And I remember that night watching the Undertaker lose to Brock Lesnar finally and break the streak. And I'll go on record as saying I still do not believe that the streak should have ever been broken. I believe that that's something that should have stayed intact. It was one of those mythological things about wrestling, that should have stayed intact. And I understand that, the Undertaker is one that he wanted to give back to wrestling because wrestling had given so much to him. Even so, if it had to be broken, I don't agree that it should have been Brock Lesnar, because I don't think Brock Lesnar needed it. That's my opinion. I'd love to have a conversation with you all about that by you guys leaving comments down in the comment section or hitting me up on social media. All those links are down in the description below. But that's just how I feel. And I know a lot of other people feel that way as well, because it broke something. It changed something for me as a fan. Not that it broke me as a fan where I didn't want to watch wrestling anymore. That was the end of an era, and that felt like the end of the Undertaker. Now I know the Undertaker came back and, he lost again at WrestleMania at some point, and then, he won another match, and so I understand all those things, but it just wasn't the same. It didn't have the same mystique. There wasn't the same power around those matches as when the Undertaker came to WrestleMania before, even in the latter years where he would just show up for WrestleMania. But I wanted to make this video because I respect what the Undertaker, what Mark gave to wrestling, what he gave to us fans. And I really appreciate his contribution. And I don't think that we'll ever see that kind of personality that can transcend so many different versions of wrestling, of the sport that we love. And I'll say sport because there is a sport to it. To go from the cheesy kind of 1980s version of wrestling where there's these comic book style characters through the 90s where it's hardcore and it's very realistic and takes a very adult approach, to going to the PG era where it kind of got back to this very safe homogenized version. And now that we're kind of in this weird spot right now where it's like you could tell that they really want to do something that's over the top, but they can't fully go there because they're locked into endorsement deals and different things like that. And so I just wanted to make this video to say thank you, Undertaker, for all that you've meant to wrestling. Thank you for all that you've meant to the fans. Thank you for all that you've meant to me. And as far as I'm concerned, you're undefeated in that aspect of being a class guy. And I've loved watching the documentaries, and I've loved watching the interviews that he's been doing lately, just talking about what wrestling meant to him and the stories that he shared. So thank you, Undertaker, and I hope that you all agree. If you don't, that's fine, and maybe you don't even care about wrestling, but it's something that means something to me. I know in my family, and my boys have grown up loving wrestling, and so just thank you, Undertaker, and thank you to the fans who have supported him over the years. Well, guys, that's all I got for right now, but leave me a comment down in the comment section. Let me know what the Undertaker has meant to you, what wrestling meant to you. I really look at different portions of my life based upon kind of the wrestling. I can think about and remember different wrestling angles and things that were going on at the time that certain things were happening in my life. And even when I wasn't paying attention to wrestling directly, those things were going on. And so wrestling has kind of been one of those constants. So let me know what you guys think about that down in the comment section. I would love to hear from you also on social media. Also, thank you to all our Patreon supporters. Don't forget, this is the last couple of days, month of June. If you become a Patreon supporter, you are in the running for our June giveaway, which is the Weird Al Yankovic Complete Al DVD. You're going to want to get that. It's a cool movie. It's really funny. It's a mockumentary style thing. And so if you become a Patreon or you give in any of our super chats in our live streams during the month of June, you're in the running for it. So please get in on that. We want to give you a chance to win that. Thanks, guys, for all your support. We love you. We appreciate you. Until next time, for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee, Undertaker. Stay nerdy. Bye-bye.